These lines are from my cracked camera, so just forgive those distractions. They're kind of cool. I'm home, and the last time I recorded a video, I was in Paris at the airport hotel. And I'm gonna pull some cards for a full moon reading, but just to finish that saga, it was not the end of my troubles when it comes to travel and getting home. I was about halfway through at that point and I didn't know it. So I go back to the Paris airport the following morning and I check in, I'm ready to go for my flight. And when the attendant appears at the gate, I had like 3.5 hours to kill because I wanted to be exceptionally early because of all the lines the previous day and how many other people I knew would be trying to figure out their alternative arrangements. And so I was waiting, and when a person finally appeared and I asked for a seat assignment, they said, well, this plane is overbooked, so if you don't have a seat assignment, then you probably won't be able to get on it, but we can put you up in a Paris hotel and you can try again tomorrow. And I did not have a breakdown at that point. I said, okay, however, this is my rebooked flight. I already did that, and sort of begged and pleaded with them, which was effective because I ended up getting myself onto a JFK flight in an upgraded seat later that day, and then back to Pittsburgh. But I needed to claim my luggage at JFK, and when I went to go do that, they informed me that all 3 of my bags were lost. That's when I had my mental breakdown. You can only take so much, and it was a exceptionally challenging sequence of events. I did get to sleep at the hotel in Paris, but not for very long. Yeah, so apparently the bags are still in Paris, but they'll be here soon, and then Delta will bring them to my doorstep. But yeah, you know, it was a little trying. I called a few people who are, you know, capable of helping me feel validated in my distress, but also help me calm down and stay focused on what it is that I'm doing, which is trying to get home. And then at JFK, I had a little bit of a layover, so I found a place to relax. Ended up meeting somebody who was a very interesting guy, and we talked for a while, and he was in the same boat. He was coming back from China. He had been traveling for a long time. He got bumped from flight to flight, missed connections. And the conversation was really fascinating because he started telling me about his experience with going through security in China, immigration and customs. And I have a lot to say about this. I'll probably bring this up in a later video, but basically, he had all of his fingerprints scanned, full palm scans, facial recognition for every single thing you go through. And in addition to that, they actually went through his phone, his text messages, his social medias, because apparently the Chinese government just redefined espionage, and anybody could be a spy until proven not a spy. And he was telling me that another person in front of him at customs, after they looked through his phone, he was taken and escorted into a different room. It all sounded incredibly wild and dystopic, and I think we need to, like, these aren't the things that you hear about, you know? China is able to move things along very, very swiftly when it comes to controlling its people because they're communists. And he also told me about the fact that there are just robots kind of perusing. I'm going to insert a picture that I took of a picture that he took. Basically like a big Roomba. So they're not like a humanoid type of structure. They're kind of like these towers, but they have, you know, like a digitized voice that can speak, and they take in information. And he said that it was very spatially aware. It can, you know, navigate like a self-driving Tesla or a self-driving car, and navigate around things. And he said that, you know, he would just see them going in and out of elevators independently at the hotel he was staying at in Hong Kong, and that they were everywhere. They were just interspersed throughout society doing various things. Like, it would be the thing that delivered takeout to his door at his hotel if he ordered food. It would be a robot. And we got into a really interesting conversation about the world, governments, and different things that are happening, you know, Black Mirror type of stuff. And so I appreciated that conversation very much and have a lot more to say about it, because the other part of the conversation, I love, again, I've talked about how I think we're really closed off to the other people around us, and I really like getting into deep conversations with strangers. I think it's cool, and I don't do it. I wouldn't do it if I wasn't receptive to somebody's energy. I don't just talk to anybody, but when there's a person that you know, find yourself next to, like, sometimes there can be a reason for that. And I think that there was, because we ended up talking about faith and spirituality as well. You know, I was sharing photos of my paintings and explaining them, and he was explaining his orientation around Jesus Christ and being raised Christian. And there was a lot of really interesting, thought-provoking stuff around that. And I appreciated that he could understand where I was coming from, and that he knows, as somebody who follows Jesus, he does believe that Jesus is the Son of God and everything, but he sees that there's other ways to be, you know, aligned with a spiritual path that don't negate the presence or the existence of Jesus. And it was just really, it was a good chat. So I'm recovering. When I get stressed, again, this whole thing, it's like I see evidence of my own growth when I can go through challenges and respond with more clarity and patience than I have in the past. And I was capable of doing that for the most part. Because I was, you know, saying in the other video, like, when you're not taking care of yourself, you're not able to respond to situations and people as your best self. And that was the situation I got myself into, because I was so depleted. And if I get very stressed out, I break out in stress hives. So I've got, you won't really be able to see them in the video. Actually, you can, these welts. I have another one on the back of my arm. You know, I was in a closed container. You know, these aren't bug bites, and I recognize them for what they are now. I kind of just start to fester. And the interesting thing is that they're on my right arm. And again, with the energy of the symmetry of the body, the right side is the masculine side, the left side is the feminine side. And I don't know, it kind of felt symbolic for me, because I was having to take care of so many things and do so many things and just keep pushing through all of these hurdles and reschedulings and not knowing certain things. And there was nobody there to, you know, help me do any of that. I had to do all of it by myself, and I couldn't really, you know, take a break from any of it. I had to just keep going and going and going. And these feel like manifestations on my body of like this festering quality of needing to keep going and going and going, you know, and giving of myself and trying and pushing and applying my energy to try to get home. And I'm just going to extend it to a collective type of message, which would be like, make sure that you're tempering your masculine energy right now, which would mean like applying yourself and pushing and trying to get results and do things. Like, just, you have to take time to rest and balance that energy and go into a state of being more like in a receptive space, in a calm space. I'm also getting that we may not feel like we have the opportunity to do that right now, right? Because I didn't feel like I could stop. I didn't feel like I could be like, I'm just gonna disengage from the process of this whole travel catastrophe. I couldn't do that. So we might be feeling like it's really hard to take time out and take a break right now, but it is important, because we'll fall out of balance, you know, and you don't want that side of yourself that's responsible for getting things done and like conquering and achieving tasks in front of you to get burnt out. I'm kind of supposed to be on my way to another destination today, but because all 3 of my bags were lost, and I know that they'll be found, but Delta really needs to work on their bedside manner, because, you know, I kind of noticed that they weren't on the carousel, they weren't coming around, and I was like, okay, I'll take my bag tags, I'll go to customer service. And after like 5 minutes of pressing buttons and figuring out you know, the status of things, he goes, ma'am, I'm sorry, they are all gone. And that's what did it. That was my breaking point. And yeah, I just need to recover, spend some time alone where I'm not in like a state of survival. And so today, on this day that I finally find myself home, I'm with my sweet pets again. I'm just not sure if I'm gonna go on this little trip. I probably will, because it's about family and my grandmother's 90th birthday and the 4th of July, obviously. And but, you know, I just want to make sure I'm here when my stuff gets back. So this is a really cool deck. All the cards have silver shiny edges. Like my other ones are gold. These ones are silver. And it is a traditional tarot, but there's a couple like reimagined things in here. Some of the illustrations deviate from the traditional tarot, so they're interpreted a little bit differently within that. I'm gonna pull some of the Starseed Oracle by Rebecca Campbell as well. And then when I was in the Paris airport too, and I did that virtual tarot card spread, the Death card came out first, and it was like this true like ending. And I was saying the Judgment card was like a yes, and the Death card was like a no. And I'm sort of looking in this card pull to elaborate on that. I'm really, really interested in talking more about the things that I gained from that, you know, friendly conversation with a stranger in the airport, because I think it's rare. What we were talking about is that it's rare to find people in your life, even if people are like, yeah, the world's really messed up. It's kind of weird out there. There's some stuff that's happening. It's hard to find people who want to take action and talk about that on like a really real and daily basis, right? Sometimes people, it's like a topic of conversation, like the state of the world and the things that are developing. And some of the more intimidating changes that, you know, can make somebody feel a little powerless in the face of whatever's changing. I'm speaking very vaguely on purpose. We talked about that too. We talked about how we try to talk to other people in our lives about this stuff, but it sort of seems like people are like, yeah, that's crazy, but then there's no ability to like hold space for it and be like, so what does this mean? What are we going to do? How are we going to live? How are we going to take up space in order to, you know, protect ourselves in this in these strange times? A lot of people feel powerless. Yeah, there's different imagery on these cards. So you see it's the Knight of Swords. There's like this evil goose with big teeth, and I kind of see that as things that are out of our control, that are threats. And he's standing up to it and putting his sword up its goose mouth beak. And then here, this is the Three of Swords. So in the other tarot deck, it's the heart that's being stabbed from 3 different angles. And here we have a reindeer. And there's a defeatedness here, but right, it's knowing like he's clearly a smaller figure than the threat, but standing up to that. What else do we have? The 4 of Chalices and the 5 of Chalices. Yeah, what's really beautiful about these two cards is that, and the fact that I pulled them together, the illustrations connect, okay? So similar to the other tarot, he's taking time out, and I'm so sorry that my camera's become this way. It's just how it is now. He's taking time out and in this meditative state, and then the 5 of Chalices, 5 of Cups. In the other tarot deck, the figure is holding his head in his hands. You can't really see, but those are 2 cups that are still full, and he's pouring out the 3 others. So how I usually interpret that card is like you're focusing on the things that are already exiting your life instead of putting your attention and your power and your focus on what you do have control over and what still is, you know, full and available to you. Isn't that cool though, that I pulled both of these cards out and they connect in a visual? So there's a combined meaning and message here around, I would say like almost a rejuvenation. Like I'm I'm in a complete null space right now. Like, I don't know what time it is. I think it's Monday. Yes, it's Monday. It's like maybe 10 in the morning or something. I'm in a transitional state right now from what was like an incredible amount of stimulation and being on the other side of the world. And the travel home was definitely like needing to engage myself to make things happen, to a point where I was like, I just can't deal with any of this anymore. My body is like rejecting the thing, like getting stress hives. That happens when I'm doing too much, and feeling defeated, kind of coming back to a meditative state. But, I brought this up as well because I was talking about the state of the world in this conversation with this guy. I need to pause the video for a second. Okay, the other card that came out is one that is the only card in this deck that is an unusual one. It's called Tiny Elephants. And it has no suit or number. It's this bonus card that they put into this deck, and I'm going to read the meaning of it. And I was thinking about it because all the other cards take a little bit of a different interpretation in the way that they're illustrated, but more or less they resemble the traditional tarot. And then I was like, I kind of hope that this one comes out because we get something new by using this deck. Two tiny elephants trek through the tall grass. The calf holds the tail of its mother as it peers around to ensure nothing gargantuan is hiding just out of view. To the tiny elephants, the grass is a wild world of its own. To the humans above, the grass is only a thought. When you pull tiny elephants in a reading, it asks you to acknowledge the perspective of your situation. Pay attention to the things around you. If your perspective feels like it has grown tired, then get on the floor. Stand on a chair. Find a new way of looking. You will be surprised how fresh something old can feel when you look at it differently. There is wonder in small things, and there is beauty in understanding another's point of view. Yeah, so anything that feels like a dead end right now may require a new vantage point in order to kind of like see ourselves through. That doesn't mean keep pushing something that's not going to happen, or maybe the additional work or the purpose of having a different vantage point on it would be to give yourself some kind of explanatory closure in some way. But also feeling like, so back to the conversation with that guy, we were talking about how we feel as if people are, they feel powerless. When we think about some of the stuff happening in the world right now, we don't want to admit certain potentials to ourselves, because then it's like, that's scary as hell to think about. And people, there's like a cognitive dissonance with being willing to let yourself go there and consider certain things. And I think that's only the case if you feel like there's no way, how do I put this? A lot of people, it's the ignorance is bliss thing. Like, if you don't think about it and if you don't make space for it in your mind, and I know that I've been speaking really vaguely about what it is that I'm referring to, but I'm going to do a separate video that like really goes into it. Basically, like the direction that the world's heading in right now. We were talking about taking the humans out of things, right? And the robots, and this very, very, very invasive, scary level of surveillance. The fact that they went through his phone in customs, like, can you imagine? And then having somebody being escorted away into a private room because he like didn't pass the espionage test. That's intense stuff. On the other hand, he was telling me about how like he comes back to America and everybody's very, very negative here. And you get people who are like on their phones, working for Delta, and they don't really give a crap about what you've been through, and they're not really helpful, and there everyone's in a great attitude, and everyone's working really hard, and their economy's bouncing back after COVID. And there's a lot of things that are, disagreeable when it comes to how Chinese society is operating right now. But there's another side of that where it's like this society is pushing forwards, and they're spending, billions of dollars on redoing infrastructure to make way for a more electronic integrated grid system of public works, basically. And he said that if it wasn't a communist society, he would want to live there instead of the States because of how advanced things are. And I think that that is interesting because I don't feel like that's the type of stuff that we get to see on the news. Like people think that you can see what things are like when you're shown images and stuff through the media, but that will never be complete. It will always be curated. It will always omit a bunch of stuff. It will always be the way that come here, honey. It will always be the way that they want you to see the world. 444 when I look up. And when you actually go to different places in the world, it never looks like how it does when it's told to you through the news and the media and everything. So yeah, I think that the tiny elephants too, there's a lot to this. Like I've been talking about in the past readings that I did when I was in Italy, having the veneers come off around certain illusions. This could be things in our lives that we've been lying to ourselves about, you know, accidentally, but like for extended amounts of time, that now it's like we can't continue to do things that way. We can't continue to grow in a direction where there's no clearance or space for us to keep channeling our energy through that. And if you do choose to do that, right, it will create issue. I mean, you could get a lot of pushback or a lot of like karmic stuff crumbling, a lot of things going wrong, or like, you know, you could get sick because it's disharmony in the way that the energy is trying to flow. And similarly, on a collective level, I feel like people are getting to a place where you can't really contest. Him and I were also talking, this airport man, about, you know, how a lot of, it's hard for us to talk about certain things because people are like, oh, that's just a conspiracy theory. And at this point, there's a lot more to it than conspiracy theory or not. Some things are just, you know, they're being announced, they're being shared, they're being proven. And when you scale back tiny elephants and you look at the big picture, there's some things that you can't really contest that are starting to happen in the world, and it's easier to see than ever. I've been following it for years, and it's taken a long time for anybody. Well, I know that a lot of people can see the things that I see and talk about it and stuff, but it's hard to do that openly. And I'm thinking about like with my friends or with my family, and not be called a conspiracy theorist. But all of a sudden now, like people are kind of coming around and being like, okay, maybe there is something to this. Maybe we do need to kind of take these changes that are happening in the world very seriously and see that something is going on. And so this veneer, right, it's lifting, and that can make us feel really powerless. And that's why some people don't even want to go there. Even if they don't know that that's what they're doing, they will subconsciously reject certain things and be like, that's ridiculous. We don't have to think about that, because that's the only way that they can protect themselves from this kind of overwhelming, like, what are the implications of this information? And so with tiny elephants, I feel like it's a changing in perspective that gives us the ability to be like, I can still kind of fight and stand up for things. Because I realize that it's not, yeah, 6 of Wands and the 2 of Pentacles. 6 of Wands and the 2 of Pentacles. Yeah, I mean, I like this depiction of 6 of Wands. He's going to a new land, and there's light in the background, right? So starting kind of on a new journey. I'm gonna read from this card because I'd like to see how it's told of. The bitter struggle of 5s unsnarled, the radiant victor floats towards the sun. As his skiff drifts downstream, he closes his eyes, soaking up the warm golden rays. The twisted strands of energy twine around the 6 of Wands, holding them upright and finally unifying them into a single purpose. At long last, they are balanced and at rest. Fighting for your vision can be a worthy but exhausting endeavor. If you don't take the time to appreciate how far you've come, you may very well burn out before you reach the final culmination of your vision. As you inexorably float toward the next set of difficulties, pause in the present moment and take in all the beauty around you. You have accomplished much, and you have been granted a brief view of the Elysium that awaits you at the end of your journey. Very relevant, definitely what I'm talking about. It calls into conversation that idea of burning out, right? And like, you can be taking time out while you're pushing forward. You have to kind of find ways that you can do that in, you know, small moments. And I talked about this as far as like being challenged by the issues that started to happen when I was journeying home. It was like, I can feel upset and frustrated by the things that are going on. But when I was part of a group of people, you know, being grounded and calm enough not to contribute to this kind of collective hubbub and come back to myself and only communicate like to the people around me by being like, hey, well, it could have been worse. We could have gone up in the air and crashed. Trying to be somebody that could support the people around me. I actually felt like what I was doing was transmuting a lot of the negative energy from the people on that plane, because I am like a channel and I'm always thinking about energy and I'm always looking around trying to feel into people's auras and stuff. Everyone was starting to get overwhelmed, and I feel like I was trying to like, you know, dispel that on behalf of the people around me, which is why it was very important for me to stay calm, even though I was also having these feelings, which is why it was important for me to vent about it after I got off the plane, and why I ended up hitting a breaking point when they told me that all 3 of my bags were lost, and I just had to break down crying. It's okay to kind of take the time to assess how hard you're working. Basically, again, like over functioning of me trying to, these welts, these stress hives, they're so uncomfortable and they're so itchy, and it's like too much of this like go is what I'm seeing and what I'm feeling and what my life like was basically asking of me. I can't just be like, you know what, I'm just gonna hang out for a little while, go to a restaurant, sit down. Like, there was no space and time for that. And it's saying we need to take stock of what has gone well and what can go well. And this new chapter, 2 of Wands came out as well. So again, the material aspects of choice and decision and starting anew and building something up. And I'm going to relate this to the collective societal stuff, because I think a lot of people, the immediate thing is to become fearful of certain things that are happening in the world and the direction that the world is going in. But we have a lot of agency to be like, okay, so then how can we work within, you know, what's happening to still like live in alignment basically, and find things to be joyous for and grateful for. And maybe that looks like, you know, depending on what your priorities are, like if you want to start thinking about like homesteading, right, and getting further away from the city and making sure that we're not consuming exclusively processed foods. Like, there are adjustments that are going to need to be made unless you want to fall into this kind of full compliance with this kind of worldly system that's striving to control the people in a new way. That's really what's going on. So a little bit more on this. It's a really, really interesting full moon reading, because I'm talking about my own travel. I'm talking about sort of a little fated encounter and this conversation that I didn't expect to have at a time that was very, you know, unusual for me, because, you know, I sat down, this person starts talking to me and asking me how I'm doing. And I said, I'm really not doing well at all. I'm in a very trying position right now. It's been a really hard time. And then to have that person say, me too. That's exactly what's going on with me. I'm also on my 38th hour of travel. I also got booted off my flights. I'm also sitting here having existential philosophical thoughts about the state of the world. Yeah, 3 of Pentacles in the traditional tarot shows us a figure sitting with other figures in a collaborative space. Okay, so talking about the ideas, the projects, the things that we can create that are going to help us live, you know, in harmony with the people around us. And that's a emotional and intellectual connection that you form with people, but it's for the material. Okay, that's Pentacles, building. What do we want to build and create together? You know, it could be passion projects or long-term ideas, but it could also be in the world. I was talking about like homesteading and trying to eat differently, and this is just small examples, but what I wanted to highlight is that in the traditional, there's characters together 3 figures for the 3 of Pentacles. But in this card, it's just one figure, you know, working on this stained glass window. And it makes me think of me sitting there alone thinking, and then this person there sitting alone thinking, and the figure being depicted as a solitary person, but then his choice to talk to me, you know, and then a conversation was created out of it. So again, just like knowing that this is what I've said with the 3 of Swords from other readings. The scary stuff, the painful stuff, it's still there, even if we don't acknowledge it. So we're at a point where we should, so that we can talk about it, so that we can all kind of be on the same page. And I mean, this could apply to smaller groups in your life. Like say, if you have a family and you're part of a family and there's been dysfunctional dynamics in the family and kind of everybody's aware about it, but things get swept under the rug. Like maybe the members of your family and yourself are, you know, you're at a point where it's not doing anybody any good to not acknowledge these things as a group and as a collective. And it's time to have conversations that are rooted in authenticity and that are the truth, so that there is a collaborative and connected way to move forward. And that can be applied to anything in a way that it may resonate. The Devil came out as well. A serpent crouches on the forest floor, gleaming eyes beckoning you onwards. Against your better judgment, you follow through the dense thicket, so enamored with the snake you fail to notice that the path he leads you down is a dead end. You are being taken in, and soon you will be lost irrecoverably to the bleak and silent forest. There are many reasons to dwell in false realities. More often than not, it is out of sheer convenience. Life is not amazing, but it's comfortable. Maintaining the status quo is easier than confronting any deep-seated issues that are quietly eroding your sanity. The Devil is, in fact, a counterpoint to temperance. Something is out of balance, but you lack the courage or acuity to address it. To break the serpent's gaze means acknowledging where you truly are, and that can be discomforting. Ask yourself if avoiding a harsh truth is worth living in a distorted dream world. That's spot on. My foot's asleep. Yeah, I mean, that's spot on. And I think it does apply to the personal and it applies to the collective. People are getting real itchy and uncomfortable in the dream world that we're trying to exist in, where you're like not willing to see things for what they are. And I believe this full moon in Capricorn is like a stern paternal reckoning vibe that's like, hey, you actually, I'm going to say it like this. It's that crossroads that I've mentioned in other videos of like, you keep getting to the same juncture, and the process of changing a bad habit or doing things differently that you know aren't good for you is like arriving at this same intersection, knowing that you should take the other path, but continuing to go down the wrong one for a while until you get, you know, you can't fool yourself anymore. King of Swords coming out. So the King of Truth and Clarity. This is wild because I don't know if you can see that. He's holding the sword and there are butterflies. These are butterflies, monarchs. I'm going to read from the book because I love the way that it interprets these in a different type of wording. The King of Swords, blade held aloft, stumbles across the nest of fey birds, full of raucous fledglings, and his sharp mind quickly grasps the value of his discovery. Raising his arms like a conductor, he conjures a swarm of butterflies down into the nest to feed the screaming chicks. Rather than clash with their raging parents, he has chosen to parley with their malleable offspring, trusting his unerring mental lucidity to subvert their feral instincts for good. For the first time in the Song of Swords, a smile is warranted and stretches gently across his face. It takes a great man not just to fight evil, but to subsume it, divert it, and use it for good. Such an immense task calls for impeccable character and keen clarity of purpose. Realism and ingenuity are your greatest weapons when faced with a mighty foe. Do not let good sense to become clouded with emotions. Face the facts with cold stoicism and find the best way to proceed. The answer may be simpler than you think. I mean, obviously right on par with what I'm saying as well. And I love that the butterflies are here because they're a symbol of transformation. He's the king of truth and clarity. And I think that's the energy that we're being asked to get into. And with fear of the unknown, you'll never know if you don't try some way or something. And sometimes people think that if you start trying to change things or do things a different type of way, then you're like fully committed to that change and that changed path. And what we fail to realize is that you're still just living each and every day, and every day is the potential to be its own path. So you don't have to know how to live a different life or show up differently in the world. You don't have to know what that looks like, because the process of you doing it will show you what it needs to look like. And that could mean, back to the example I used of like, say it's a group of people, a family, and they have swept things under the rug, and now there's this crucial point where it's like there's an unhealthy dynamic here, and we could all be relating to each other in a more healthy way, or whatever it may be. In order to do that, awareness is the first step, and then the desire to change and do things differently, and then the small, curated, calculated baby steps that the universe will come to meet you at each step of the way to help you recalibrate and course correct, to keep you moving in an adjusted direction, right? So it said the answer is more simple than you think, because it's not about, and I said this in my readings from the last week, it's not like, what do you want to manifest? You have to have every single detail figured out, and there's a new chapter, and the energy is very abundant for potential, and we have a lot available to us right now to create new things. That's kind of intimidating and exhausting feeling, and it's like, well, I don't, there's overwhelm, but you don't have to be overwhelmed when you're going to keep living anyway, right? Each and every day. Wouldn't you rather kind of wake up to the, smell the coffee type of thing and the bacon and come have some breakfast and get real, and sit down at the table, and instead of just continuing to be asleep and not paying attention, because it's still here, right? Whether or not you acknowledge it or like it. And so a childlike expression is like ignoring things, right? Kids aren't as good at confronting and dealing with the truth. And it's when, it's like the adult expression is being honest and open and available to considering all sides of a situation from an honest, non-biased lens. Because only then, if you're ignoring that there's even an issue, if you're ignoring that things are even a certain way, then you can't, of course, fix them, because there's not that acknowledgement there. And you need to make that acknowledgement in order to get through the trapped cycle, this position of illusion that a lot of people are now being either, forcefully brought out of, because things are changing and they're having a hard time keeping up or doing things the same way, trying to do things the same way, but not able to because the energy no longer supports it. Or people who have been doing, certain personal work, and now they're at this natural point of like, okay, I have the potential to level up, but I'm gonna have to be intentional about how I want to go about this. I resonate with that. I saw something today. I think I'll make it the cover image of this video. It said, the path forward to your next level up is always through the parts of yourself that you avoid. That's a really powerful message. And I think that it also speaks to, it's the personal, right? But it's also the collective message right now too, for like society. Like, what are we avoiding? People are trying to sweep things under the rug and act like things aren't happening the way that they are. And mind you, the media and the content and the stories and all the swirling stuff, it's meant to cast people under this veil of illusion. We are being supported in this collective rejection or unwillingness to consider certain things. Certain things are happening very successfully with great swiftness and speed, because we are, how does this want to come out? There's plenty of, if you're functioning from your intuition and your higher sense of self and your true sight, your eyes, you can see what's wrong and what's broken and what's not aligned and how things are going. But if you're only living in the world of the 3D and using your mind and your ego, then the evidence around you, the information, will allow you to continue to avoid. You have enough evidence to say that's not, well, it's I don't have to do that. We don't have to pay attention to that. I don't have to change. You could choose that path, but I'm saying it's getting harder to, because there's an awakeness and a certain type of shifting that's happening that's causing a lot of people to see things differently. All right, what do we have from the Starseed Oracle? Please help to understand this message on the full moon in Capricorn a little bit better. This is really intense energy, and it does honestly feel a little bit, not like dark, but heavy. And it's like I'm in this like weird purgatory where like my bags didn't get delivered. I'm supposed to go on kind of like another short trip right now. I'm exhausted. I'm totally exhausted. I'm jet lagged. Like, I feel this total, this rest and this silence and this readiness just to kind of recalibrate. So let yourself do that at this point, you know. Back to the idea too of like Capricorn is the father of the zodiac. There's this paternal wisdom in the Capricorn energy. It's very disciplined and masterful. And I think that it's a good archetype for our next chapter of leveling up, right? But you can't push too hard in one direction without giving yourself the space and time to kind of adjust to the changes that are happening. And by that, I mean, like, you need to rest and take care of yourself and balance things out so that you can be of service to yourself in a way that's actually beneficial, but of service to the people around you, right? And I'm seeing again, like, my welts on my arm, like this festering that comes from pushing too hard in one direction without tempering it with the more feminine energies of just being like receptive and letting the dust settle instead of continuing. What we have from the Starseed Oracle, the first card that's come out, it says, I'm sorry. And you see there's these two figures crouching, these roots go down. Underneath it says defenselessness, righting past wrongs, and uprooting. Okay, so I want to first point out that with the two figures, that speaks to me of duality, right? The good and the bad. The complexity of being able to hold things together and not having it need to be one or the other. But there's something that's going to happen when we're truly honest with our, you know, with ourselves, with our families, with society, with our friend group, with our partner, whatever the thing is, where there is a need to like hold both at the same time. It's no longer picking, right? Because that's a selective, filtered version of reality where we're being asked to hold it all now because we're leveling up and we're getting wiser. We're more capable of holding these things together. And with duality, I also see it as, you know, two figures, two sides of a coin, the yin and the yang. I don't know if you can see this painting, but it's got swirling yin-yang symbols with butterfly wings and angel wings and kind of this torrent of energetic life spiral, right? The unwinding and the unfolding and the happening But in order to get to this place of clarity where we're like, okay, yeah, we can have these hard conversations. We can speak to ourselves more honestly. It's because there's a balancing of directed, action-based contribution and a more feminine, like intuitive knowing that's more sensitive and based in the emotional component, so that we have both of these energies within ourselves guiding us forward. And I do think that there's a time to be more, in one state or another. And the Capricorn full moon is a little bit, it's a bit of a, it's like our, our directions in our lives when it comes to matters of career, like life purpose really, but also the balancing of work life, not letting it be all one thing. Okay, so we're living in divisive times. When we're hurt and triggered, we tend to see things as a personal attack rather than an opportunity for healing. If we're to find true peace and unity, we need to drop our defenses and see things outside of right and wrong. As souls, we intrinsically remember unity and yearn for it here on earth. Perhaps this is why it feels so painful when we experience the opposite. But it's crucial to remember that we can't simply bypass reality and pretend that unity, love, and forgiveness are here. This is one of the greatest challenges for star seeds. To bring about unity, we must first acknowledge the ways in which both we and the world have been divisive, personally, ancestrally, and collectively. The shadows, hate, wounds, separation, severing, wrongs, and sadness. You may be called to explore how you, your ancestors, or your society have, consciously or unconsciously, inflicted pain on others. To find a way to drop the armor around your heart and see things as they truly are for all people. To say I'm sorry with an open heart and mean it, to be part of the healing rather than the perpetuation of inherited conflict or oppression. This isn't about blame, it's about unwinding the patterning that got us here. You may be called to devote your time to causes you believe in or do healing work on your ancestral line. How are you being called to drop your defenses and unwind past wrongs? Yes. Yes, indeed. I have nothing more to add because that was pretty comprehensive. And of course, that is still in support of this idea, right? So it's almost like Capricorn is this wise, like masculine. It's like a confessional. I'm seeing us sitting down with the Capricorn full moon, and Father Capricornius is on the other side of the thing, being like, okay, my child, like, let's get real. and we're doing that because we know that it's safe to do that. It's kind of like we don't have a choice to do that, right? That's what's happening. And when you're in that position, does it make sense to be like, everything's fine, Father Capricorn, I'm good. I don't have anything to really talk about here. I don't know what I'm doing here, You could do that, but that's a childish expression. That's an immature expression of the energy that we find ourselves in. And if somebody were to choose to take that route, I think that in their body, in their energy, in their heart space, and probably even translating into the conscious mind, they would be like, I can do better than this. This really isn't, I guess, how I'm supposed to be moving through this time. And I have to be real with myself about the things that I want to change, want to do, want to release, want to make amends for too. Sometimes we can't necessarily go forward or set ourselves free from something because in order to do that, we kind of have to go back and change things that have already been. And there's a lot of different examples of how that could be. But our next card out says lifting the veil. Question everything. Anything unaligned must go. Things aren't always as they seem. This era is one of uncovering mistruths so we can remember ancient truths. Everything is in a state of recall and realignment. Anything that isn't in harmony with the planet will not survive. This goes for society and the world at large, as well as in our own lives. If you pull this card, you're being called to energetically scan your life for things that you may no longer be a vibrational match for who you are and how you've grown. To dismantle the systems and ways of being that once served you and others, but no longer do. And I think, we may not even be able to tell that we're afraid of doing this, but it's just the avoidance of change, like denying that change is necessary, denying that we have the ability to make change. Some star seeds are here to lift the veil between the seen and the unseen worlds, to shine a light on things that are inauthentic or unaligned with the survival and well-being of Earth, to stand for and protect those who don't have a voice, to look deeper and question everything that previous generations did not. Some star seeds cannot tolerate things that aren't congruent. They're here to bring society and humanity back into harmony with the planet and the Creator at large. If we tolerate things in our life that aren't aligned and congruent with it, we add to the misalignment of the planet. This is really important, and this is what I was talking about when I was saying I was on a plane, right? We were literally in captivity without food and water on the plane. People are starting, the mental quality, the energetic quality of the vibe on that plane was declining. It was a challenge. It was a hard situation, and I felt like if I were to sink into the frustration of what I was feeling, I would contribute to the misalignment of the group. And I'm not saying like I'm a saint and I was uplifting everybody else. I was protecting myself, but even one person, right? This is too how we provide excuses and talk about like, well, it doesn't matter if I do it or not, like, because we're just one person, like it doesn't matter. That's not true. Even one person saying like, you know what, that's not right. That's not a good way to do this. I want to show up differently than the person next to me. And you could love the person next to you, but you're allowed to change and do things differently to contribute to a future the way that you want, a conversation the way that you want. So everything we do matters a lot, and it's not to add pressure. It's actually to inspire hope, because we think that the things that we do don't matter, but they do. Back to the holographic, prism of the self and the kind of the structures of society from an Akashic integration level. Every point on a piece of graph paper, right? It matters. It's weighted equally. These cells, these things, those are us taking up space, in the quantum field of interconnectedness. And what you do matters just as much as some random person in South Dakota who is sitting at a casino right now. There's this, and also just the fact that I went to the airport and met somebody and had a really relevant, deep conversation with that person. Sometimes we think that we're a lot more separate from the people around us, or our experience is a lot more separate from the experiences of the people around us than is really the case. And so being able to kind of accept, right? We'll say like, I'm too far gone, I'm too this or that, or set in my ways, or like, I can't change these things. I don't have enough like power, or it's too complicated, or like people don't understand. Like all of these are self-imposed limiting beliefs. And the predicament of each individual, there's going to be certain parallels right now. We're about to have 7 planets be retrograde. Oh my God. Neptune, Saturn, Mars, these serious lessons and teachings are like starting to like consume us. Like this is kind of an energetic-y boot camp type of transit. Okay? You're being called to trust yourself. Notice what's out of alignment and then take the baby steps required to bring it back into harmony. This is no easy feat, but it's so worthwhile, both individually and for the planet. What isn't congruent in your life? How are you being called to bring it back into harmony? How indeed. Okay. The last one I'm going to get from this deck, it says perspective. This is just a black card and there's earth, like real tiny. My camera is going to be such an issue. Maybe I need to get a new phone. It says, none of this matters. Zoom out, common ground. And that kind of, for me, it has to do with like, we are more similar than we are different as people. Take a step back and look at the bigger picture of your life. Step away from the blinkered version and reactive frame of mind of me against them. Change your perspective. Shift your point of view and zoom out, out, out. We are but a speck of dust in the universe, yet we think everything revolves around us. We see the planet as ours to own and conquer, pillaging the land and setting ourselves up for eventual extinction. We build fences and walls and create invisible borders. Mother Earth doesn't need us to survive, but we need her. It's time to wake up. A new perspective is urgently needed. We become so lost in our individual experience that we don't realize that most of the things that keep us awake at night are actually distractions. We're wasting our precious time and resources fighting each other when we should be coming together to heal what's been severed. This moment is a breath in the timeline of your life. This life is a fleeting moment in the tapestry of your soul's experience. Your soul's experience is a flash in the timeline of the known universe, and the known universe is a grain of sand in the unknown universe. Take a moment to see the bigger picture, to find common ground, to find deep compassion in your heart, to gain a greater perspective of humanity in this fleeting moment in the timeline of your soul's existence, in the timeline of all that is, was, and ever will be. How are you being called to change your perspective? The other thing that I'm getting, this is a message that was coming through when I was reading that, is that all of the things that you can look at that are like in the manufactured world, so like the news and the media and all these things, that's only going to create more illusion. How do you sink into something real? I've talked about this in other recent videos, but you'd be looking at the truth of the energetic world, right? And nature, connecting and communing with nature to find your truth. And I don't mean like go into the forest and she'll whisper, things about the government to you. No, I mean, when you sync your energy with something that's more timeless and natural, like if you spend time in nature, if you do, like when I was in Italy, right, I was like talking to the butterflies and the spiders and noticing things about the creatures in the natural world and the elements and the wind. That's where truth exists, because that world is tied into our energetic world, our inner world. The manufactured world, the news, the systems, that type of information and energy is really distracted and it's negative. So if you've noticed, right, like the news, it'll be like big shooting and then like funny meme, like really cute, really funny, and then really disturbing. Like it's super chaotic in that it gives people no calm or known place to rest and come back to a sense of peace and clarity in the heart and the mind. We're constantly being told that something more is happening, over there, and warfare, and your children aren't safe. There could be a shooting. Women aren't safe. You need to protect yourself when you're out in society, in public. I'm not, again, saying that all those things are fake, but I'm saying in order to guide yourself forward, right, and to make the right changes in your life right now and respond with a matured sense of truth within yourself. I'm seeing the King of Swords again. Oh, and what I didn't realize before, the Knight of Swords he's standing up to the beast and has enough of a confidence in himself, even though it kind of looks like he's gonna lose, right? The goose might just be able to eat him. But the point is that type of, even though the opponent seems greater than you, or the things that you're up against, it seems hopeless, go for it anyway, because there's really no, the other paths, they're tired and sore and old and beaten. It feels like they're there, but they're not really anymore. They've fallen out of alignment, and that's why things are the way they are right now. Those options really are kind of trying to close up, and so it feels like you can't go the other direction because it's too intimidating, it's too much, it's too this, it's too that. But doing that will allow for a more mature expression of that will to emerge, where you realize that you do have enough within you to kind of continue rising to that challenge. Because again, it's not like a one and done. It's going to be this new direction, new path that's being forged, because the will to do so is there. The other steps will become clear as we continue. And so I was going to say that the Capricorn full moon, this culmination of realizing where we're at, what we want to change, it's going to be tempered by the feminine energy. And I'm seeing it as like Mother Earth, right? I talk about the female energy as being the moon, the intuitive, the intuition, the emotional, but it's also the earth. So it's like, make these changes with the, you know, the mental aspects, the decisions, the literal steps, the baby steps, the pentacles of it all. Builds that off of not what we're told, not what we're being shown, but what you get from your connection to the more timeless, natural things. That, so like being in nature, allowing yourself to kind of come home to a sense of intuition, and then using that as your groundwork and your framework to create and make action, right? Because the reason why, or the reason why the world is the way that it is because we were told that things were a certain way. A lot of people have built their lives off of, you know, not finding deep meaning in the soul fulfillment, but, you know, very hollow existences of material gain. And we, you know, have a lot of people that work really hard, and then they still don't feel fulfilled in their lives. And there are certain things that are these constant inherited perpetual illusions, and it's saying like, have the power, have the courage to do things differently and to see things that other generations before us haven't seen. And this is why this one talked to ancestral healing. Look at the way that your ancestors might have wronged other parties and take kind of a holistic accountability. And it said in the meaning of this card, this is a blameless process because we're mature enough, right? When you go to the confessional and you're talking to the Capricorn full moon, he's not going to be like, that was really fucked up of you. Like you know, there's something taking place that's a level beyond, because the matured expression of like the feminine masculine energy of like the intuitive, but the action necessary to make changes, it simply doesn't matter why certain things have happened the way that they have, because I think that's one of those distracting rabbit holes that people will get into because they think that they have to go that route in order to clear things up. But actually it's a distraction that will prevent you from being able to move forward, because it doesn't have that kind of automatic forgiveness. If we're trying to figure out, you know, I'm going to get a clarifier on that because I'm losing my train of thought. I'm going to get it from the Psychic Tarot by John Holland. I don't have my normal deck because it's in my lost luggage, but I have all my other decks now because I'm back home. Okay, so automatically bottom of the deck we have third eye chakra, and that's what I kind of mentioned before. See with your wise soul. See with your inner sight, right? Be honest with yourself and be able to look at things from a different angle. Again, with the tiny elephants card. What we think, what we avoid because we think it's challenging or, you know, disturbing, and this could be, right, the subconscious avoiding, is actually something that we have a lot more ability to circumnavigate than we tell ourselves. The reason why we're avoiding things, because we feel kind of powerless to changing them, is a lot less of a blockade than we care to realize. We just have to make the first steps and take the leaps of faith to say, like, you know, even if I do kind of fail, I know that I can't go this other direction. So I'm going to try out a new way of being and a new way of seeing. Foundation and achievements. This is really lovely. You've got a man and a woman and a kid with a rainbow staring at a house. The number is 4, so I'm seeing again like 4 of Wands, 4 of Pentacles, that stability, being able to come together. Triumphant success. And it's a sword. So I'm gonna read from these. 113 and 139. Excuse me. So for this one, foundation and achievements. This card confirms that what you've been building is now firmly established with a strong and solid foundation. You deserve this. It's time for you to harvest the rewards for your efforts. What you sowed, you can now reap. Be open to receive as you've worked hard and have given so much. Allow the universe to give back to you a little. This has to do with what I was talking about with like, I have welts on the masculine side of my body. Like we need to realize that how we've done things in our lives, there is merit to some of the things that we've done. You know, it's not all things that have to be changed, right? We're not all having these reckonings with everything in our lives. There's a lot of good that has come out of following the path, the conscious and unconscious parts of our life paths that we've led up until this point. This is what this said too. You have to be able to be grateful for the certain things that you have and that you've created thus far. But I was saying like the receptivity that is needed. Allow yourself to be like, I do, this was from a different video, but like I do deserve good things. I was talking about how I think it's everybody's birthright to have good things and be able to generate good things for themselves. I think a lot of people don't think that that certain things are necessary, right? I don't need that. So allow the universe to give back to you, for there has to be an even exchange of giving and receiving in order to prime the pump of gratitude and reinforce the law of attraction. So actually, if you think that you don't need good things, or if you're not willing to level up, right, you're stagnating that energy, because the universe, nature, right, things want to keep growing, things want to keep expanding. And your life and your existence and your participation in the world is no different. Using the more traditional meaning in tarot, this card represents a period for celebration, peace, and prosperity. It may also imply a marriage or the buying of land or a new home. As you enjoy this time of relaxation that you so deserve, know that nothing remains stagnant and the winds of change are always at your door. Yeah, again, I just said that. So nothing remains stagnant. You can pretend that certain things are fixed, but really nothing is. And I like this energy coming in because it takes on a more peaceful, restful, right? It's like a healed family. And I used the family analogy before. So I'm seeing this as like a, hey, what you perceive as being scary on the other side of the unknown, it's actually not. It's going to lead to healing. It's going to lead to the ability to rest in what we think is kind of like this lonely, transformative time. I mean, there's some really beautiful, powerful imagery in the cards that are out here. Just with, oh, hang on. I'm going to cut the deck. Oh, wait. I didn't read the triumphant success card. So I'm going to do that. And then I'm going to cut the deck and get another one. And I'm also getting, again, I talked about this a little bit earlier in the reading. It's the need for both and, right? We can be victorious and have accomplished certain things and feel peaceful and key into a sense of gratitude, and also be like, and I'm going to change these things. You're not one or the other. You're not, good or bad. We're humans, and it's very complicated, and that's reflected in the world. It's not all evil or all good or all okay. It's complicated. Triumphant success, the first of the mental cards, signifies that new beginnings and exciting challenges may be before you, right? New beginnings, and then it says exciting challenges. So that's interesting, because it's not like bad challenges, dark challenges, exciting challenges. We're meant to go through things. It's like if you as a soul, as a non-physical being, designed this life for yourself, you'd be like, ooh, and then I'll have to grow and evolve in this way. Like, see it from that perspective. Exciting challenges, like things that are really hard to do, but you knew on some level that you would be able to handle it. By utilizing your strength, willpower, determination, and focus, there is potential for you to reign triumphant in many areas of your life. In traditional tarot, this card represents the Ace of Swords, since a sword is double-edged and it can cut through all barriers that hold you back if it's done constructively and with precision. Remember that there's another side to the blade. If you're rash or use it in a destructive way, it can be harmful to yourself and others. Always pause and think before you act. This card is a reminder to vanquish negative thoughts from your mind, strengthen and tap into your mental powers, and use clarity with control in order to initiate new ways of thinking. So I also see that as tying into like the whole take your power back type of idea. Like if we're avoiding things because we don't want to have to think about it, or we don't want to have to go there mentally, or we think, right, we're casting out the wrong type of projection around a certain issue or a new direction. We think it's going to go this way. We get in our own way. We think it's going to be like this. And because we think or see that it could be like that, we're like, well, we don't want it to be like that. So we don't do anything. But it's like, really, you've made up an effect that hasn't manifested yet from a cause that you haven't initiated. So you're binding the whole situation in a state of paralysis and inactivity, but you've shrouded it in illusion. That's not really, right? We are often very surprised, I think, that things go differently than well-laid plans. You know, despite well-laid plans, things will always kind of go surprisingly or differently, and we have to let that be an uplifting and positive thought too. It's not like it could be worse than you think. I think you have to leave space to keep in mind that things could go better than you think. And if they don't, then at least it's for your highest good in some way, or it's something that you are capable of handling. And potentially, you know, from a karmic standpoint, if we're clearing things out and kind of like making amends with different parts of ourselves or the people in our lives so that we can move forward, sometimes you do have to do hard things. You have to hear things that you don't necessarily want to hear. But like I've said with the Three of Swords, like whether or not you're ready to hear it or want to hear it, that truth, the energetic root of whatever that thing that I might be talking about is, it'll still be there, right? And this calls back into mind, like the mature expression of something is not avoidant. So I like this card a lot. Universe, number 21. Where is she? $67. You've come far on your journey and it's time to be rewarded for your efforts. This card symbolizes completion, triumph, peace, liberation, and fulfillment. Everything you strive for is within your reach. Meet it halfway and grab it. The universe is the last of the major arcana cards and reflects the work that you've accomplished on your travels. Okay, so this is the World card from traditional tarot. Most importantly, it represents the wisdom that you've gained along the way. Okay, so I'm talking about a mature expression of things, whereas before we might have known things, but we might not have used all of that information to enact change in our lives in the way that we may now decide to do so, because we're ready to be like, hey, it doesn't matter that I didn't do it before. I'm here now. I've been through a lot. I'm ready to do things differently because I see that there are different pathways available to me, and I'm excited for that. I can create what I want to in my life, you know? Opening myself up to the world and the truths of it is not all glum and sad. There's actually a whole lot of creative potential because I see that I, just like anybody else, has the potential to kind of rise to the challenge and have a voice and create things that are more aligned with me and what I want for my life and the people around me. You should now honor and acknowledge the truly wonderful soul that you are and accept the vital part that you play in the bigger scheme of your life. The world is yours to command, and you're free to travel in whatever direction your heart desires. You're connected to everything in the cosmos. The universe card is a reminder that the same energy making up the stars in the sky, the same energy that's coursing through the universe, is in each and every individual. In ancient times, many believed that each star was the soul of one person. They also believed that these souls shined so brightly to guide others through the darkness, and so too can your wise soul. That's pretty cool. I'd like to get some cards from the Angel Answers Oracle by Radley Valentine. So the Angel Answers Oracle. I'm gonna pull these, but what you could do now is come up with 2 different questions. The first card I pull will be the answer to the first question. The second card I pull will be the answer to the second question, and it would be best to ask a question that has more or less a yes or no answer available, because it's not gonna be like, the card's not gonna come out with like a specific description. It's going to just be guidance to clarify the uncertainty in your heart or mind about whatever it is that you're thinking about. So if you come up with a question, I'm going to go ahead and read 2 different answers. 1 card for question 1 and a second card for question 2. And hopefully the questions that you think of now can be about like helping you get additional guidance and clarity on the things that you do want to change. Like if there's still some question marks, you pick a question now that you can receive some extra, confirmation around, or some type of nudge that helps you feel a little bit more confident about the things that you're going through at this time in your life. I'm also seeing me having gone through this like really intense stretch of travel, punctuated by this random little like kindred spirit run-in. Another thing about like being kind of like in alignment or receptive to the world and like keyed into the energies around me. I talked about being in the grocery store a couple videos ago, and how I don't really like those spaces because a lot of people are kind of sleepwalking through their lives and like really low vibrational and stuff. And when you encounter somebody who's not like that, you can tell really, really easily. So yeah. I think if you put yourself into a space of wanting to connect with people who think and talk in really honest ways about things, like they'll be attracted towards you. The opportunities will present themselves for you to connect with like-minded people. Oh, there we go. All right. So our first answer, listen to your intuition. And I love how we have this kind of like beautiful mother. I see Mother Earth, the ultimate like divine feminine energy, but also like, the universe card. This female beautiful energy resembles that. And see on her headdress, the butterflies. I know it's really hard to see with my cracked screen and stuff. Hey, Bobo. Hey, little honey. So happy to be with my mutt again. I'm a good dog. My good boy. You're sweet. Sweet, sweet boo-boo. What? Come here. You have to go outside? What? Oh, Mr. Boo-boo. All right. Your intuition is completely reliable and accurate at this time. Listen to your own inner guidance and you can't go wrong. You can be certain that the messages you're receiving from your angels are real and trustworthy. Have faith in your feelings about the circumstances you're experiencing. Your insights into other people and their true feelings or motives are perfectly accurate. There is no need to question what you know is true. Yeah, so I would just kind of amend this to be like, don't listen to the dramas of your ego anymore, because sometimes we tell ourselves that we think something is true, but we're protecting ourselves from realizing something, or we're afraid of what something may mean if we choose to acknowledge it for what it is, and really look at it with that candidness. So I'm seeing this card, listen to your intuition. Have that conversation of being in the confessional with this paternal like truth, right? King of Swords again. This ability to kind of stand up and be like, I'm going to articulate to myself for the first time maybe what is really going on in my life, in this dynamic, in this situation. And then you embody both. You have that, see that confessional with the Capricorn full moon energy, this clarity, this willingness to have those open and honest conversations as happening within yourself, but at the same time, this communing with this natural intuitive flow, this trust, right? Faith, high priestess energy, this this indescribable trust of like that feminine knowing from within. You have to kind of walk the line of both right now is what I'm getting. So if you did ask a question or had a question, you actually know deep down inside of you what's true. And if you don't, you have the ability to find that answer if you ask for it and try to kind of connect with the truth of the matter within you. And that's like keying into the silent, subtle forces. Again, I talk about a slate. I've talked about this in other videos. The calm, cool bottom that is under, like, of the riverbed, the slate, that's like the soul and the intuition, right? The ego, the chatter of the mind, that's the water, right? That's constantly moving and changing, and it can never stay in one space. But the truth will have a different kind of resonance to it, and it doesn't speak as loudly, right? The truth doesn't beckon to you to prove anything like the ego does. So the ego will be those thoughts that say like, no, like they take you in different directions. They give you the runaround, these thoughts, right? Because that's you trying to protect yourself from that quiet truth that will remain while you kind of go on these mental distracted journeys, because you're denying what it is that your soul's knowing deep within, whatever that may mean for you in relation to whatever question you might have asked. So our second card says compromise, and it shows this angelic woman holding two scales that are in perfect balance, okay? In order to create a happy outcome for this situation, you will find it necessary to compromise. Allow yourself some time to become clear about what is truly important to you. Also, take note of what matters. Take note of matters where you would be open to changing your position. Work toward an agreement where everyone wins. Be open to cooperation that would allow you to get what you need while also assisting others in fulfilling their desires. Be objective about finding a balance between respecting everyone else's viewpoints and still being true to your own, right? So when we are in a space of ego, or when we're not necessarily in balance with like a more soft, intuitive, emotional, and then the more like masculine, like directed, action-oriented, headstrong sides of us, we can be one of two things: having no ability to stand up for our viewpoints and just too watery and not being able to defend any one standpoint, or we could be so rigid that we don't have the ability to kind of have that watery sense of compromise, right? If you're too in one or the other state of mind, you could not stand up for yourself enough, or you could do it too much to the point where you're unwilling to be like, you know what, yeah, maybe I was wrong. Maybe I can see that a different way. And you know that it's safe to do that because it doesn't actually reflect anything about you in terms of weakness. It just speaks more to your ability to be adaptable and strong in the power. People who are very powerful are able to kind of pivot quickly and change their minds and adapt, right? Because they're not locked in to the stagnation of attaching themselves to certain ideas or viewpoints, because that can be very limiting. If you think things have to be a certain way, or you're fitting things in to support this truth that you're not willing to let go of, then you're going to be artificially, right, trying to package things under a certain viewpoint to support it, instead of being like, it just doesn't work that way, right? I guess I wasn't right about that, or I guess it is. I guess I am allowed to shift my viewpoint in order to align with the evidence of what is taking place in your life right now. And it seems like from the cards, there are hard truths. There are some things that we're trying to look at and change and acknowledge, but there's also this huge request from the universe to give yourself a lot of grace and pat yourself on the back and be like, I'm allowed to want new horizons and good things for myself, regardless of what's happened, regardless of what's been, regardless of where you're at. There's this request to have some gratitude and let that gratitude kind of create a momentum and a faith around creating new things. And then I'm just going to do, I know this is a long one. I guess I'm the type of person who records long videos. I mean, I always knew that about myself, but I thought that it would be like, for instance, I know that what's popular and what's accessible is short form content. That's why like these shorts or these little videos that are like literally 15 seconds long. Like, what am I going to say in that time? Have a great day, folks. Bye. No, I mean, I know this doesn't, like, of course, if you watch these videos and you enjoy them, please do hit the thumbs up button, because I want want for my messaging to help people. That's why I'm being called to do this. Of course, I love just kind of sharing about my own experiences too, but there's something else, you know, if it is valuable and insightful and relevant to you, then engaging with it on the YouTube platform helps other people to discover it. And that's what I hope. But, you know, it's not for the impatient or the people who want quick fixes or quick answers. A lot of the things that I'm going to talk about and that I've realized that I am talking about is like, it's not synopses, right? These are pretty in-depth types of insights into the current energies that are happening. What is our spirit animal card for this time at the full moon in Capricorn? It's July 3rd. What energy can we tap into in regard to spirit animal energy? That is far too many. Something concise that I can provide. Yeah, long form content, right? It's kind of like people don't really have the bandwidth anymore to be engaged in the playing field of their own life in like I want to stay mentally stimulated and keep learning and keep growing. We just want to sit there and watch something and not have to like stretch ourselves or apply ourselves. And yeah, I'd like to kind of subvert that and see us kind of get back into a state of being naturally like fresh and curious and keep, you know, being able to sustain our attention long enough to watch a video that's an hour and 10 minutes long. We've got 3. Electric Eel Spirit, number 24. Bring your ideas to life. Dragonfly Spirit. Truth transcends illusion. Heck yeah, 22. And then Dog Spirit. Boo boo, that's you. Be loyal to what you love. Number 19. What am I looking at? Dog Spirit. Dog Spirit appears to remind you that although change is a part of life and all of us are meant to evolve, our love and commitments remain strong. You are loved now and can trust in that this higher love is true. Spirit loves you, and love has arrived in many forms now, manifesting in the people you surround yourself with, expressed uniquely through them. Dog Spirit also says to be true to that which you love, for now is a good time of good fortune. So again, thinking about the new chapter, like what do you really want to create? Who do you want to take into that new chapter with you? What are you passionate about? Your heart is loving and true, and Dog Spirit wants you to know that your steadfast commitment to experiencing and expressing love will attract and manifest more love. You deserve all of it. Again, that idea of like worthiness. Having faith in Spirit's plan for you. Alternatively, so for each of the animal spirits, there is kind of a protection message. I'm going to read those as well. This one for Dog Spirit says, loyalty to people and situations can turn into attachment that results in stagnation, enmeshment, and loss of integrity. Do you fear what will happen if you let a relationship evolve? Are you afraid that asking for a situation to change will make others see you as disloyal? Trust that when Dog Spirit appears, you are meant to accept the turning of the wheel of life, wheel of fortune energy, and the changing of fortunes. If you feel you are being betrayed or growing apart from someone, let Dog Spirit reconnect you with your commitment to love in all forms. Right? So that actually speaks to exactly what I was saying. Like if we're trying to fit things into an inauthentic idea, that doesn't work. Like you can't take something that's not aligned for you and try to create reasons why it's right. That'll never work. I mean, you can fool yourself around it, but we're beyond that now, right? Because if your third eye's open or opening, or it's what's on this deck, right? All the colors, all the rainbow, all the light, being able to see past the illusion. I don't think that you'd be watching this message if you were still trying to deny or you weren't in the process of, you know, I just don't think that a person who wasn't interested in any of this or isn't interested in, I don't think you would have gotten this far in the video or have been, you know, resonating with the information enough to even get this far. Perhaps a relationship is meant to evolve. Perhaps you are meant to evolve too, so that you can experience the growth for which your soul yearns. This one's a catch-22. Sometimes I think that we don't like our lives or we want our lives to change, but we're avoiding things. And it's ironic because the very things we're avoiding are the very things that we're not comfortable enough to acknowledge is the doorway through, that we have to pass through in order to get what it is that we actually want. Go ahead, honey, you can go up there. Your greatest loyalty is to love, so be open to all its many guises, including self-love. You do deserve the best, and that is what Spirit wants for you. So regardless of who you are, if you're a man or a woman, young or old, like love is like one of the energies, right? I was watching Harry Potter on the plane, and there's a theme in all of these different tales, right? It was Harry's mother's love that actually protected him from the death curse, or like in Star Wars, the Force, right? Or in Lord of the Rings. I'm thinking about like the brotherhood and the companionship of them being able to go on that voyage together, whatever. My point is, love is the energy of connectedness and like the energy of God and creation. What, sweetheart? This mama is so handsome. I missed him so much. He's so handsome, boo-boo. I love you. He needs my attention. So I'm gonna go soon, but I am gonna read Dragonfly Spirit and Electric Eel Spirit. Okay, so basically my point with that though is saying like you can't live a life without connecting to the energy of love, or if you do, then it will be not meaningless, but not fulfilling. It's not like you have to be like Mother Teresa or anything, but like ideally you can find a sense of passion for the things that you do, like a sense of respect and love for yourself, for the people around you, for the things that you're doing. A life that's led by love is aligned. It's very, 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 very simple. And I think that right now, if we're being called to certain things because they're aligned for us, or if we're being called out of certain things because they're not aligned with us, the more we can honor that and respond to those things honestly, the more that will be magnified towards like more things to love, more things that make us feel loved. Yeah. I'm gonna lie down. The video's almost over, but I can't have my feet falling asleep again. Okay, Dragonfly Spirit, right? Transcending illusion. Dragonfly Spirit is here to remind you of the wisdom and truth available at all times in the hidden realms. Just as Dragonfly catches your eye with its reflective wings and body, Dragonfly Spirit appears to tell you to pay attention to the truth beyond the illusion and recognize the insights that come seemingly out of nowhere, peeking through from behind the veil. So I think this also speaks to the fact that we think that things are outside of us or inaccessible, but once we actually suspend our own disbelief to go there and think about things in a different way, we really do get clarity that comes through. Oh, I think the video is gonna be upside down if I'll put it back like that, even though the lines come back. Okay, in the realm of spirit, there is far more wisdom that you can perceive with your senses, and there is a deep knowing that you are not separate or alone, for a higher power recognizes you and loves you beyond measure. Fears dissipate as you realize you are embraced by the nurturing force that is everywhere, always in communication with you. Alighting when you are preoccupied, Dragonfly Spirit offers this message. You exist in unity with all, including the protective spirits who share their wisdom, and you are being nudged along the path your soul needs to travel to have the experiences it craves. Love exists in many forms, and sometimes we overlook it when we don't recognize a particular form. Pay attention to the signs now. They remind you that each of us have inspired dreams seamlessly sewn into the fabric of the invisible world. And there is a great consciousness that exists in the seemingly empty spaces guiding us on our journey. So here's the other thing. There are things that you want or that are meant for you, and you don't even know that you want them until you suspend your own disbelief enough to let yourself go in a new direction. And then you're going to be like, this is perfect for me. This is so good. This is so much better than I thought, right? Because the universe knows you, and it knows the truth of who you are. So it knows the types of things that would be aligned with you, even if you're not able to articulate that to yourself or conceive of them. And that's why it's really important to go forward with some openness and some curiosity about what could be possible for you. Open to the truth, letting the wisdom of the hidden realms inform you, providing insights your conscious mind overlooks. Did you really think the world of the senses is all there is? From the hidden mystical realms, signs are being sent to you, but perhaps you have perceived separation and convinced yourself that you are on your own. Have you fallen into spiritual amnesia and have forgotten your connection to a living, loving, always supportive universe? If so, rub the sleep out of your eyes, for Dragonfly Spirit is here to remind you of all the love and support available to you in every moment. There is an organizing principle underlying the events you have experienced, and Dragonfly Spirit can help you see it and trust that Spirit has your back. Yeah, okay, so sometimes we don't want to move, okay. Even the things that we perceive as like having been totally wrong or messed up, it's saying there is an underlying sequencing and explanation, right, for some of the madness or the things that seem to be inexplainable or the things that seem to have gone totally wrong. So don't use any of that as excuses, basically. Be able to accept things for how they've been and key into the deeper meaning behind the sequencing of events and how your life and the things that have happened have shaped you to be exactly as you are. And then let that inform, right, the next chapter of what is going to happen. Let go of the illusion of chaos and randomness. Love is here, so follow the signs that appear serendipitously. As you pay attention to the magic all around you, you will know you are on the right track. Okay, so that ties into seeing synchronicities, which I'm always talking about because I'm constantly seeing them. And I also like that, you know, the dog card talked about loyalty and love, loyalty to the self, being able to extend love to the other people in your life, let people know that you appreciate them and that they're valuable to you. Right? Even meeting this guy in the airport, like he did start talking to me. I like to be a very vibrant person. I tend to attract a lot of random attention in conversations in public. You know, for a variety of reasons. I always just like to think it's because I have a high vibration, but you know, this man was married, okay? He wasn't hitting on me. I did sit down at this bar, and then he kind of like noticed me and said, like, on the second thought, keep my tab open, I'm having one more. And then he started to talk to me. But it wasn't necessarily like, you know, a romantic or a sexually charged conversation. It was just very interesting. And at the end of it, I was like, thank you for having this conversation with me. It's refreshing to talk to somebody with this level of depth, and I appreciate it. So I'm just saying this because it's like, you do want to kind of affirm the things that you like to the people around you. Even if it's not like romantic love, just the things that you love about what happens on a day-to-day basis, like acknowledging that to yourself, like, hey self, I really loved that you took a little power nap this afternoon. That was really good of you. And that's supporting this generous balance of being in the state of flow that we're trying to achieve right now. We meaning you and yourself, but also, you know, us as a collective. I don't know why I felt moved to share that about this man, but it's like, I think it goes back to the idea that things can happen and unfold for us in unusual ways, right? Just remain open to receive whatever that means for you. As you pay attention, I already read that. Okay, now on to Electric Eel Spirit. Okay, so this one says, bring your ideas to life. Seemingly out of nowhere, the jolt of electric eel spirit appears to awaken you to a big idea that you are meant to explore. Epiphanies and aha moments are gifted to you right now, so celebrate. Your life has the potential for profound transformation, especially right now with this energetic cycle that we're going through and what the planets are about to do. Like, it's about to get weird. And I'll keep doing and posting readings throughout, I'll just keep doing it. So I'll talk about the weirdness as it continues to unfold. That's not what this reading is about. This reading was about the full moon. Epiphanies and aha moments are gifted to you right now, so celebrate. Your life has the potential for profound transformation. Inspiration arises in you, electrifying you so that you can't wait to get started, bringing your idea to life. The revelations you experience now are meant to set you on a new path, so do not be afraid to act on them, okay? So giving ourselves permission to want the things that we want, and also tempering that eagerness, right? Like true joy and inspiration and eagerness, it gives me a childlike energy because we had a lot easier of a time being inspired and excited when we were kids, right? It's why they're like, what do you want to be when you grow up? You can do anything. And kids are like, I want to be an astronaut. And nobody's being like, Timmy, I'm sorry, that's not very realistic. You wouldn't say that to a 6-year-old. You let them dream big. And it is the things that happen to us throughout life that make us stop feeling like it's safe to want grand things for ourselves. We adjust downwards. And so I think that right now we're being asked to adjust upwards again and be like, I can have and do the things that I want, whatever that may mean. Now is a thrilling time of epiphanies, inspired ideas, and innovation. This is a wondrous sign for you today. Yay. Ideas need to percolate, as they rarely download in detailed form. True. Well, have you too quickly dismissed an epiphany because you couldn't see where it might lead you? Have you rushed to follow the muse without taking time to contemplate the meaning of your aha moment? This is what I was going to say. So it can be, these ideas, if we're truly impassioned by something and excited by it, it's almost like we can employ a childlike level of execution. So you let the idea be innocent and divine and at that childlike level of letting yourself go there. But then the execution of it is a mature expression of your balanced state. So both the calculated, action-oriented, masculine execution side of things, but then also, letting it be tempered by the intuitive, emotionally led component. Have you rushed to follow the muse without taking time to contemplate the meaning of your aha moment? Perhaps your dream will take a different form than you first imagined, morphing into something else that is even better. Spirit's plans are often hard to discern, but so much more satisfying once they have taken over from your own predetermination. Excuse me. Maybe your big idea is taking more time to shape than you expected. That's okay. You're not running out of time. You're right on time. Have you considered that you are meant to learn something in the process of bringing it into being? Commit to transformation and to learning any lessons this new venture will bring, and soon you will see that your aha moment was even more valuable than you realized when you first felt it electrify you. Yeah. All right, I'm going to get one more card just from the tarot, just to provide a last look into what we need to know right now. There was a lot of information in this reading. If I were to give a one-sentence summary of what I think is happening at the full moon in Capricorn, I would say, be honest with yourself. Don't be too hard on yourself. Take some time to rest. Try to cultivate a sense of excitement that you can temper with not letting it be excitement, like the excitement of dreams and things that are impossible. But it's even more exciting because what if it is possible? What if it is possible? And then kind of sinking back into the truth of being balanced as a result of that. Because it's not again, right? I'm thinking about these things that people get all jazzed up about, like magical happenings or lucky instances. The magic and the excitement, it can kind of rise and fade. And so That's so funny. I said, I'm going to summarize it in one sentence, and then I proceed to go off on a whole thing, but whatever. Wow. I mean, I shuffled, and again, what we have as the card that wanted to come out as our lasting thing is the Three of Swords. So I never read from the book for that, and I'm going to do that now because it's coming out a second time. The noble stag lies where he was slain, stabbed in the back by the ruthless Three of Swords. A high cold wind blows as the butterfly, alit upon its antlers, gazes sorrowfully at the grim scene. This card is a stark warning that even the swiftest animal can be brought down by treachery. It may be possible that you plan to wield the sword yourself. If this is true, know your actions irreparably shape the world you live in. Wow. And then at the bottom of the deck, we have the World. You can see how it looks similar to that Universe card. So yeah, I mean, I said this before, the energy of this reading, it's not like somber, but it's really serious in that we're getting serious with ourselves, but it's balanced. It's balanced with the creative potential of being able to key back into a childlike state of innocence and love, right? And like allowing ourselves to get real with what's happening in the world, what's happening within our own dynamics. Not letting the activity or the action of getting real be this like punishing thing, right? Because of the forgiveness of like, I'm seeing it as like the great mother, I was saying with the confessional with like a Capricorn energy. Conversely, you want to think about the forgiveness that you can extend yourself like a mother would to a child. Yeah, there's an intensity here though. So if this happens to be an intense time for you, then just know that you can kind of take one day at a time, and it's just a time to kind of rest and recalibrate, and more will become clear as time goes on, which, you know, you could argue is always true. But man, my arm with these welts on it is really not feeling good. So I'm gonna go rest and recalibrate and allow myself to live in balance. And hopefully my bags will show up. Okay, take it easy.